Jerusalem.
This execution of crusades
The
to
Crusades
replace
may
with
have been
Jesuits.
romanticized in literature and movies, but the truth is, they were insane religious wars focused on nothing but death, destruction, and forced conversion. An estimate of nearly 2 million people died. In 1118, a French knight by the name of Hugh de Payan founded a military order together with 8 relatives and friends. They called the order the Poor Knights of the Temple of King Solomon, later known as the Knights Templar. This order sprang forth from a secret society called the Prieuré de Sion, the Priory of Zion, an order that, by the way, is still alive and active today. With the support of the King of Jerusalem, the Knights Templar set up headquarters on the sacred Temple Mount. Their official goal was to protect pilgrims on their way from Europe to Jerusalem. In and of itself, this is fascinating. 9 knights were officially appointed to protect Christian pilgrims over a distance of 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers. God only knows how they did it. Their not-so-official goal was to rebuild the Temple of Solomon that had been destroyed in 586 BC by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. Why this was so important to them, we will show later on. In 1129, the Order of the Knights Templar received the official support of the Roman Catholic Church. The order grew abundantly and donations came pouring in from all over Europe. The knights adopted a code of conduct in which they swore unfailing obedience to the master. According to researchers, the principle of obedience made the Knights Templar lethal. They acted swiftly and with certainty to do as they had been commanded. A force of Templars became an extension of the will of its commander, the Grand Master. At the height of their power, the Order of the Knights Templar comprised of almost 20,000 members. Only 10% were armed knights. The other 90% took care of infrastructure and logistics. Even though the knights had sworn to a life of poverty, the order was excessively rich, owning large plots of lands, farms, vineyards, mills, horses, arms, equipment, the island of Cyprus, and an impressive fleet of ships. All the way from Europe to Jerusalem, in every city, they had monasteries, castles, churches, universities. They were so powerful they did not need to obey local laws. They could pass freely across all borders. They didn't have to pay taxes, and they were exempt from all authority except that of the Pope. Furthermore, everything they took from the Muslim population that they subjugated and murdered on their way was given to the order. Did they have these privileges in writing? Oh yes, Pope Innocent II took care of everything by signing the papal bull Omne Datum Optimum in 1139. All the order had to do was swear obedience and allegiance to the Pope. There was one area, though, in which the Templars truly excelled: banking. They had a network of banks in many countries that enabled pilgrims to deposit assets in their home countries and withdraw funds in the Holy Land. By the 13th century, the Templars had become such competent and trusted bankers that European kings and nobles who embarked on crusades to the Holy Land often forwarded large cash sums to the Templars that could be withdrawn later so they could pay their armies. The Templars even gave out loans to rulers. They excelled in everything they did, for which they were overloaded with donations, gifts, fame and fortune. However, in the early 14th century, the Knights Templar met their final destiny: King Philip IV of France. This man was heavily indebted by the order. When he asked for even more loans, the order refused. King Philip decided it was time for the Knights Templar to meet their maker. On Friday the 13th of October 1307, a multitude of knights were arrested, including their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. After years of imprisonment, he and many others were burned at the stake. Medieval documents state that Molay called out a curse over the king and the Pope, Clement V, who had failed to protect them against the wrath of the king, and who had even dissolved the order through his papal bull, Vox in Excelso. Although the Pope dissolved the order, he did not formally condemn it, which would have been normal in those days. 1 month later, Pope Clement died. 8 months later, King Philip died. Ironically, the Pope's body was burned to ashes by a fire that was caused by lightning that struck the church where he was lying in state. The king died of a stroke he suffered during a hunt. But, contrary to what our history teachers have told us, the Order of the Knights Templar did not end here. New orders were founded with new names that were basically the continuation of the Knights Templar. Think Military Order of Christ in Portugal, Supreme Order of Christ in Italy, and so on and so forth. In every European country, the Knights Templar simply lived on the way they had, as if nothing much had changed. Only the order names had. The Order of the Rosicrucians appeared, founded by Christian Rosenkreuz, a German aristocrat. Was it connected to the Knights Templar? Absolutely. The sign of the equal-armed cross of the Knights Templar was combined with a rose. It can be found in medieval churches across France, Spain and Portugal. Yet another secret order was founded in 1534. 2 centuries, 2 decades and 2 years after the official dissolution of the Order of the Knights Templar, the Jesuit Order.